Will Smith is Hollywood's biggest embarrassment. For years, he had it all. He was one of the most loved people in Hollywood, the leading man in the biggest movies, the star with all the fame, success, and money anyone could dream of. He had die-hard fans, a perfect family image, and the reputation of being untouchable. But it was all a facade, and the cracks in that image started showing in ways that nobody could ignore. Whether it was being openly lectured by Jada about cheating with their son's friend, while Will sat across from her letting the humiliation be filmed for the entire internet, or just constantly being portrayed as weak, spineless, and emasculated. The once beloved superstar was now seen as the butt of the joke. And then came the Oscars. The slap heard around the world, one of the most embarrassing Hollywood moments of the decade. From that night forward, it became obvious why today Will Smith is one of the most hated celebrities around. His arrogance, his narcissism, his constant fakery turned him into someone impossible to respect. After years of rejection, he slowly faded into the background. Chris Rock mocked him in his special. Everyone laughed, and Will Smith went from Hollywood royalty to irrelevant. But Will wasn't ready to disappear. Having been the darling of Hollywood for so long, he needed a way back. He needed to fix his image, win back fans, and prove that he still mattered. The problem is, his so-called comeback turned into one of the worst PR disasters in recent memory. And the way he's gone about it is a masterclass in how not to handle a career collapse. It all started in March, when out of nowhere, Will dropped his first album in over 20 years. Suddenly, he was everywhere again. For a moment, it looked like this might be his shot at reconciliation with fans, a way to show his real side. He claimed the music would reveal the parts of himself that had been hidden, as if the spineless version of him would finally vanish and the strong Will Smith would return. But instead, the reaction was brutal. People called the album corny, cringy, calculating. Reviews described it as nothing more than a pointless apology tour for the dumbest Oscar gaffe in history. What was supposed to be redemption turned him into a bigger joke. So he tried again with a new single, Pretty Girls. The video looked like it had cost millions, packed with insane production value, but that didn't matter. Within days, it racked up a 60% dislike ratio. Comments compared it to a midlife crisis. Some called it a humiliation ritual. And one viral comment described it as the gayest straight song ever made. Another begged him to just retire and take what little dignity he had left. What Will thought would be a triumphant return to music ended up making him more of a meme than ever before. With music flopping, he needed a new plan. And that's when he set his sights on TikTok. If he couldn't win over old fans, maybe he could appeal to Gen Z. Suddenly, Will Smith started appearing in random TikToks with creators like Brooke Monk. People scrolled their feeds and, out of nowhere, there was Will, smiling, dancing, pretending to be relatable with influencers 30 years younger than him, and it looked bizarre. There was no connection, no chemistry, just a middle-aged Hollywood star forcing himself into an algorithm that didn't want it. Viewers weren't fooled. They called it calculated cringe and desperate. It was so obvious that his PR team was paying influencers to make him look relevant again. Instead of fixing his image, it made him look even more fake. Then came the interview phase. Will popped up on School of Hard Knocks, a TikTok and YouTube channel about money and self-improvement. Out of nowhere, he was there, talking about how money doesn't bring happiness, how fame is isolating, how true peace comes from within. On the surface, it sounded deep, but when you watched it, it all felt rehearsed, polished, and fake, as if he was reading lines his team had written for him, and the audience saw straight through it. The comments ripped him apart for trying to act wise and spiritual while ignoring the scandals everyone still remembered. Instead of honesty, it came across as another desperate attempt to trick people into forgetting the past. But Will wasn't done. If fake wisdom didn't work, maybe nostalgia would. On June 11, 2025, people walking through London's King's Cross station suddenly found themselves surrounded by cameras and music. Out of nowhere, Will Smith was performing his old 90s hits. For a moment, the idea sounded genius. Tap into nostalgia, remind people of the old Fresh Prince, the star before Hollywood destroyed his image, and yes, a crowd gathered. But when you looked closer, the energy was flat. The crowd wasn't excited. They were bored. Online, people said it looked sad, lifeless, and forced. What was meant to be a throwback to his glory days only highlighted how far he had fallen. So he reached for one last trick, attaching himself to KSI. Out of nowhere, Will was suddenly everywhere with the British YouTuber. They made TikToks together, Will showed up at his events, even supported him at the Legends v Creators football match. But when KSI uploaded his Try Not to Laugh challenge with Will in it, the reaction was predictable. People couldn't ignore the elephant in the room. This wasn't a friendship, it was a PR stunt. A desperate middle-aged actor trying to leech clout from one of the biggest influencers in the world. And the comments let him have it. Almost everyone brought up the Oscars slap Jada, or called it out as yet another pathetic attempt at forced relatability. Instead of helping, it just made him look even more cringe. By now, the pattern was clear. Every single thing Will did to fix his image made him look worse. Every move felt fake, staged, and desperate. He thought he could force himself back into relevance, but all he managed to do was prove how little respect he has left. And this is where the story turns into something bigger, because Will Smith's failed redemption arc isn't just about him. It's a warning sign for every Hollywood star. The old days when celebrities were untouchable are over. For decades, they lived behind walls, only appearing in staged interviews or at carefully controlled events. Their scandals were hidden, their reputations protected, their images managed to perfection. But the internet destroyed that system. Now, every fake smile, every insincere apology, every staged PR stunt gets exposed instantly. And once people see through it, they never look at you the same again. That's why Will Smith can't make a comeback. Not because of one mistake, but because audiences don't believe him anymore. They see through the act, they know the image is fake, and the more he tries to win respect, the more he loses it. Every TikTok collab, every staged apology, every attempt at nostalgia just reminds people how desperate he is. Respect doesn't come from PR stunts or expensive music videos, it comes from authenticity. And Will burn that bridge the second he let the mask slip. No matter how much money or influence he throws at it, people aren't buying it, and they never will. Rachel Zegler is another example. She was supposed to be Disney's next big star, cast as Snow White at only 20 years old. On paper, she was destined for success. But then came the interviews. Arrogant, dismissive, sarcastic. Talking down on the original movie, mocking Prince Charming, turning one of Disney's most iconic roles into a political statement. Audiences turned on her instantly. Just like Will, she became the symbol of everything people hate about modern Hollywood. Fake relatability, arrogant lectures, and entitlement disguised as empowerment. And it's not just them. Audiences have stopped caring what celebrities think altogether. The Imagine video during lockdown, the endless political virtue signaling, the fake speeches at award shows, all of it exposed how narcissistic and out of touch Hollywood really is. People no longer care about their opinions, their PR moves, or their fake relatability. They just want to be entertained. And if celebrities can't provide that, they'll be ignored, mocked, and replaced by people who can. That's why nobody respects Will Smith anymore. He had everything, and he lost it. First by letting himself be humiliated, then by lashing out in anger, and finally by trying to buy forgiveness through one PR stunt after another. Respect doesn't work that way. You can't manufacture it, you can't force it, and you can't leech it from someone else's fan base. Once it's gone, it's gone. Will Smith isn't just a man who fell from grace. He's the proof that Hollywood itself is collapsing. An industry built on fakery, now exposed for what it really is.